Thank you. The only noise I want to hear is my voice, and I don't make noise. I asked for the cultural community, the artists, the producers, the ones that make things happen in the world of art and culture. Producers, radio personalities, and we have an owner of the radio stations, and we are honored for your presence. I want you to focus on who you are. This world in which we live in the Quran is called a transitory world. It's a world that's in between two infinities of time. I would appreciate it if you would turn off your phones, please. Thank you. I said, this is a transitory world in between two infinities of time. The first infinity is from God's creation of this that we call universe. Trillions of years to the present world, which is very limited because it is the world of the rebel of God. This is not God's world. This is the world of the enemy of God. And that's why there's so much suffering in the world, with 7 billion or more people on the earth. And billions of them live off of $1 or $2 a day. God never intended for human beings to live like that. But in this world, the wealth of the many is in the hands of a few. And so in our talent, our gifts, in a world that is called the world of sport and the world of play. Play meaning we're not engaged in the production of a world that satisfies our needs. We're engaged in a world where they brought our fathers into slavery, and as the scripture says, by the rivers of Babylon we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps on the willow tree, and our joyful song had turned to mourning. And those that carried us away captive required of us mirth. And those that wasted us required of us a song, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. And as long as we could sing, as long as we could dance, as long as we could make the slave master happy, we could move up in his world, but never to be his equal. In the world of sport and play, nobody plays better than we. Nobody sings better than we. Nobody is the specimen of perfection physically like we. So we are kings and queens or gods in the world of sport and play, but under him. So he determines how high you rise. And if you don't please him, he sets us down. So what pleased him with our art was that we could make songs that depicted ghetto life. Not the hope of our conquering ghetto life, but ghetto life. Shooting one another, shooting up, drugs and guns and gangs and jail. So we have contributed a lot to our own destruction. If I don't see you on Sunday, know that Joe Biden and Bill Clinton were the architects of the crime bill. And know that Ms. Hillary, she championed the crime bill. And while we were having the Million Man March 21 years ago, they were in Congress setting guidelines for prison for crack and powdered cocaine. So the drug war that started under the Clintons and the Bushes before him sent many of us to prison for nothing. A little blunt, a little crack cocaine, and the white boy making it with many grams of powdered cocaine, and we are crushed. And under that crime bill, in that same time of Bill Clinton, they went after welfare because they said a few of us were taking advantage of welfare, and from one generation to another, we were living on welfare. As that's an exaggeration, because many of us survived because of aid to dependent children. My mother got aid. She was a strong West Indian mother. She worked on the side. She wasn't supposed to, but she did what a mother, a good mother, would do to give me and my brother a musical education, because she never wanted us to clean white folks' houses as she was doing. And I remember the social worker coming to our little apartment in Boston and seeing how clean it was, and mother had nice things in it. So they made an inspection, and they wanted to know, how did you accomplish this being on aid? So with her nice West Indian accent, she said, "You think I want to live off of that? How am I going to give my children some education in music? Jean and Alvin, come, bring the fiddle, get to the piano." And we laid out some stuff. The white woman was blown, because at that young age, I was considered one of the finest young black violinists in Boston, and my brother was an excellent pianist. And she left that house that day blown away, because she met a woman that understood what aid was and used it wisely. When I was 16 and completed high school, that day that I graduated, she got a check from welfare. And she said, "Come with me." And I went to the place in the little town of Roxbury, Mass, where these social services were. And so she gave the woman back the check. And she said, "I thank you for helping me to get my sons to this place, and now I will take it from here." Not a welfare cheat, but somebody that understood the value of getting help when you don't have a man in that house to help you with your children. The Clintons took that away from us. And if you went to prison, they would not allow you to come back to where your mother lived if she lived in the projects under government housing. Her son coming out of prison, her daughter coming out of prison could not come home. And if they found someone in the house that had a prison record, they're all out of public housing. So many of our people became homeless. And many men who were not making money, they stayed away from the house so that they could get a check. So many of us grew up without a father, and our mothers struggled with us. But those of you in here who are a little older, you can remember the time in Atlanta, in New York, in Boston, in Cleveland, in LA. In every major city and minor city, there were factories that employed the men of the black and brown community who didn't necessarily want a college education, but we were trained in the crafts. And we had jobs that didn't make a lot of money, but it allowed us to come home to our families with what meager earnings we had. And all of a sudden, in the 1970s, I read an article that they expected the inner cities to explode, so it was not wise to invest in the inner cities. So the factories began to close down and move out. And when the factories closed and moved out, and we didn't have a skill or an education that was marketable, we ended up with nothing. In walks guns. In walks drugs. It's not your fault. It's social engineering. They were building prisons, brothers and sisters, like people build hotels. You don't build a hotel not expecting occupancy. Then the prisons were on the stock market now. People bidding. It's a private enterprise. So they wanted us to fill the jails. There was a meeting I heard out in Los Angeles where record executives were invited to a meeting, and in that meeting were those investors in the prison system. In the early days of rap, it was edutainment. It was rap and rhyme with wisdom. But they wanted to change that because they can't fill the prison with wisdom. They wanted to fill it with those of us who sold out to the gangster culture. So when we got into that kind of rap, that's when the big record companies started pushing you. And naturally, you could become rich just calling your females what rhymes with rich. You could become wealthy calling your women whores. You could become wealthy just saying you don't like this nigga MF. And you wouldn't say MF, you'd say the word straight out. And then you hear the children now loving the beat of the rap, and the language that they began quoting was our language that we put before the world, and the enemy just promoted it, kept promoting it. So you could get some money, and naturally you want to compete with your brother or sister that got some bling. And so the enemy is handing you money in one hand and then telling you about his brother that owns the jewelry shop right around the corner, and you can go and get some bling. And some of you, you know, you want a little gold in the teeth. I know you looking real sharp. And his brother is a dentist around the other corner. And then you want somebody to design your clothes. He got another brother that's designing your clothes. So they are in the circle because they cooperate with each other. The money stays in their circle before it leaves. But with us, the money comes in, the money quickly goes out. And we keep like a dog running after its tail. We're constantly striving, but never going where we want to go. We have to put a stop to that, brothers and sisters. Now, you remember Vibe magazine? Is it Vibe? Source magazine? I think Mr. Mays said he was coming. He used to own Source, I think. What would Source feature? It would feature the beefs of the rappers. Radio now plays up the beefs of one another. So Tupac is dead and Biggie is dead, and our big brother out on the West Coast, is he in prison now? Suge Knight. What is it called? Death Row, yeah. Now, as long as you beef, you can't sit down together like brothers who are making money and pool that money to do big things economically. See, the Jews are wise like that. They may not love one another, but Mr. Saperstein and Mr. Rubenstein and Mr. Cohen, they just say, hey, come on. It's Rosh Hashanah, it's Yom Kippur. Let's forget that I robbed you last year. And let's put our money together, and the next thing you know, they own all of the things that we need for our work. They own the theaters. They own the venues. You're the talent. They don't have the talent, but they know how to manage your talent so that they become rich and you're lucky. You know, they put the money up for you to rap. You come with an idea. They say, okay, when you rap, and they put the money up, they tell you, well, you know, here's a little advance, which means you owe, before you get started, you owe money. So here now, you rapping, but you're not getting a good enough check, even though you're happy your record is on the radio. Man, and you're knocked out because you don't really want money. You want to be respected. You know, put some what on my name? And you deserve respect. You want to be loved. You want people to know that you exist, man. I'm here, and this is what I do, and I'm good at what I do. And as long as people say, hey, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, you feel good, man. You ride up in the ghetto with your nice whip, you know, and you step out, you know what I mean? And you know that the women like you. You're happy, but you're broke. You know? You're happy, but you don't have what you deserve. Your record went platinum. But when the check comes, they tell you, well, you know. And you know, I put up so much, and I got to get that back first. But here, if you want another advance. So they advance you right out. This is modern sharecropping, brothers and sisters. That's what our grandfathers and grandmothers used to do on the plantation. You never finish paying the enemy for what he said you owed at the company store. So you had to keep on planting the next season, hoping that you'd break even. So sharecropping was not good for our grandfathers, and the type of sharecropping on your gifts, your skills, your talent is not good for us. So how do we break out of this economic crush? $1.1 trillion is coming through our hands. That's a lot of money. And when white folk see you with $1.1 trillion, you know what they're saying? How much of that can we get from them to make our communities strong while we keep their community weak? Now, I don't want you to think I'm talking down to any of you, because I'm in love with you. And I'm willing to give my life to see us in a better place. So I'm not talking against you. But we have, the Koreans have 80,000 stores in America in the black community. Now, I mean, I know you look beautiful with your hair, and they're selling, you know, and we are buying, and they've graded hair so that if you really want a real nice look, you got to pay real nice money. And you know, man, you sacrifice for your hair. Not for a book, for something in your head, but for something that makes you look absolutely beautiful. And you are beautiful beyond words. Look at I'm speaking now to the sisters. Look at the beauty of your bodies. Poor Donald Trump, poor fellow. That man sitting on TV talking about, yeah, when you're a star, you know what I'm saying? You could just kiss a woman and she ain't gonna say nothing. You're a star. You can grope her if you want to. See, we love stars. And many of you know that when you became a star, you didn't have to look for women like you did in the ugly days. Women look for us when you're a star. And when you take advantage of sisters who are really the women of God, not of man. See, the only reason they're with you as a star is because they are born to look up to God. Because they're from God. So when you are the master of what you do in your field, you attract beautiful women around you. And when you misuse them and abuse them, you finally come down. You never will be successful abusing our women. Would you turn that off a little bit? I know the airs, we need it. But when you all get super hot, we'll put it back on. But you look cool to me. You are so beautiful and attractive. You allow people who are stars to take advantage of you. That's not good. One of the things that I have learned as a Muslim, but even before that, as just a young man, when I was in show business, the women love you when you are gifted and talented. And they would come to wherever I was performing, in the nightclub or on stage, in the dance halls. But I had my girlfriend who became my wife, and I would just go off the stage to her. Women may felt bad that they tried to get their brother, and I felt good, you know what I mean? Because I didn't take advantage of them, and I had the girl that I loved, and that was sufficient for me. If you're going to be great in life, wisdom will tell you to be committed to somebody that has earned your love. You never get married for sex. Then it's two dogs in heat. But a woman is created by God to help a man to be as productive as he can be. That's what the Bible means when it says God created Adam and he saw that Adam was alone and he said, it's not good for a man to be alone. So he gave him a woman as a help meet. Not M-E-A-T now. M-E-E-T. Not a mate, but a meet. Meet what? Every man is born with the nature to be a producer. Every man. The man that you got, he's born to be a producer. That's what the Bible means when it says, Adam, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. Because I'm giving you dominion over the fowl of the air, the fish of the sea, and every creeping thing that crawls upon the earth. That's you. You're born to rule the nature of God's creation. But you got to be yourself a God. What? The scripture says you are all God's children of the Most High God. And he's most high, not because he's high. He's my, no, wait. I'm going to be like God, you know what I mean? I'm going to be the most high on my block. And you never grow to master beyond your block because you're so high you can't produce. God is the most high because he's the most magnificent in all the divine characteristics of his nature. And each of us has that nature of God in us. Now, why, Farrakhan, are you saying that to us in this setting? The greatest change agents in the world are the people in the culture and art community of every nation. Mao Zedong had 600 million Chinese to organize, to deputize and supervise. So what did he do? He had a little red book, but he knew he couldn't put that book over without the art community. He did it in song, he did it in dance, he did it through plays and theater. That's how the artist community is used properly to engage the minds of the people in a revolutionary desire to be free. You're the ones to do that. We are the gods of art and culture. So any change that we want, you are able to produce it with a song. Now, I don't know if you know T.D. Jakes, but T.D. one of the baddest preachers that we got. And there's a lot more. I mean, we hoop a lot. We preach. But one song from any one of you, ain't no preacher that we got can match the power of one song. Just one. Preachers may be good in their church, but you got followers all over the world. And who are the revolutionaries that's overthrowing governments all over the world? Who is doing that? Who? Say it again. It's the youth. If the youth are doing it all over the world, then he who can guide and control the movement of youth are the real world leaders. So if you're that good like a Jay-Z and you're in the beehive with Beyonce, what politician doesn't want you by their side? If you can hoop like LeBron James, what politician wouldn't want to say, LeBron James has just announced his support for me. They need you. You really need them if they would do what they promise. But the problem with most of them, they promise only to deceive. How you doing, my brother? You know I'm happy and honored every time I see your beautiful face. Thank you for coming. Have you heard of Killer Mike? Now, Killer Mike, when I saw him stand with Bernie Sanders, because of all the candidates, Bernie Sanders was talking more the right talk, the revolutionary talk, the game-changing talk. So Killer Mike stood with him. But the other day I heard him on YouTube. I think we Googled him up or something, and he was blazing. These dogs, he said. Yes, he did. He called them dogs. He said, go on down to the bank. If 1 million of you take $100 out of your bank account, just 100, and take it to a bank that is your black bank and put 100 million in that bank, then you make a demand on that bank to serve your community. 100 million that's in our hands, we can start doing business, creating industry, manufacturing again. These two young brothers that own this place, I was blown away. 26 years old. Now, I don't want to come back to Atlanta and find the gathering spot in trouble. Because it's only successful if we support it. This envy that we have, this is a sickness. Oh, man, I ain't going down there. Them niggas gonna make some money. Next thing you know, they'll be driving a Bentley while I'm in my Volkswagen. If you would like a Bentley, do you like Bentleys? Just say. Would you like one if you had one today, a Bentley? Well, whatever you like. If you like it for you, do you like it for your brother if he gets it before you get yours? See, we're not Muslims unless we love for our brother what we love for ourselves. So if you get it before I got mine, I should be just as happy for you. And I mean be genuinely happy with no back talk and slander and bad mouth. See that nigga, he out this, he's selling drugs. You don't know what he's doing. But if he is, leave him alone. That's how Mr. Kennedy did it. He was the big dope dealer in the 20s and 30s, only it was called lightning. A liquor man. Prohibition. But the money that he made one son a president, two sons senators. Come on now. He was allowed to keep what he got criminally. Bob Lucas couldn't do that. No. Lucas had the best heroin. I mean, it's best if that's what you like. But look at where they, according to the movie, the dog was barking. And they found the money where the dog was. took the money, put him in jail. When he comes out, he's still a great brother here, but he ain't got no money to transfer drugs into another kind of business. If you a pimp, excuse me, if you're doing that and you're good at it, you're a businessman. Your product is the sale of women. Okay, so we bust you for that. That didn't take away your productive mind. All you need to do is turn it. We walked in the hood. The brothers came to me and said, Farrakhan, said, man, we doing this, but we doing this to survive. I understood him. All these empty buildings on the south side of Chicago, and he got money, but he can't put it in a bank. He got to find some place to hide it because it's so-called unclean money. Now, I don't know how Mr. Kennedy hid his money and laundered it and did. You know, they do laundry work. But my point is, he was in a beef a few blocks away, another gang, guns and drugs, so he couldn't go across the street to partner with the brother over there and say, look, man, we killing each other. Let's stop this, man. You pool your money, we pool ours. We buy up all these buildings. Give these young people a job, having people who know woodworking, carpentry, electricians and roofers and all of that, and teach the young. When we came out of slavery, we were the builders, man. White folk, if you saw him with a hammer in his hand, that was news. Hey, look at that cracker. He got a hammer. If he wasn't hitting us in the head with it, he sure wasn't building nothing. We were the builders in the South, everywhere else. But when we got out of slavery, the enemy said, if them Negroes start building, all of them will have jobs. We'll have nothing. So what they did, they opened up the immigrant population from Eastern Europe. And a Jewish man by the name of Samuel Gompers started the AFL-CIO, but you couldn't get in it. But it was Europeans now in the union, the trades. Now they wouldn't let us work, and now they couldn't. Our fathers couldn't pass that on to the next generation. So with every generation, we became less and less builders. So here we are today without the skill, but the inner cities need our genius to rebuild the wasted part of Black America. I'm going to close that with this. We have to stop the beefs. You know, when a man tell you, put some respect on my name, that's kind of serious. And brother wasn't playing when he said it. But when we start dogging each other rather than lifting each other, after we dog each other, we can't come together with each other to plan for the whole of our people. Now, I just want to give you what I would consider a thought, a couple of them. If you're not going to be out Sunday, I'm just going to give you a hint. How many of you realize that our people are dying from all forms of cancer? We lead in every phase of cancer, blacks. Our women, they say, are the number one carriers of the AIDS virus. How did that happen? They put our young men in jail, and then hardened criminals say to a young black brother, you gonna be my B. He didn't go in as a homosexual. And when he comes out, he don't come out to be one, but he had a heavy homosexual experience in prison. When he went into prison, they tested him to see if he was diseased in any way. But when it's time to come out, they don't test him. So the first thing he does when he comes out, he wants to find his girlfriend and resume the life that they lived before they put him in prison. But she don't know, and he doesn't know, that they infected him while he was in prison and made him a carrier of the AIDS virus. We are under a genocidal plot from the highest levels of the U.S. government. I'm not saying something that I can't prove. And I say this to you with all humility. When you know the truth, you have a responsibility to speak what you know. When you know the truth, it doesn't mean anything that you know it. You've got to develop the courage to speak it. Courage, you can't buy it at Walmart's, you know. Farrakhan did not develop courage from reading somebody's books. When you love and love deeply, you will fight for what you love. Look at a mother who never went to firefighting school, but let her baby be in a fire and she know her baby is in that house. She'll break past the fireman to go get her baby and risk her life in so doing. What's the power that gave her the courage? It's the love of that life that's there. Martin Luther King loved us. Malcolm loved us. Elijah Muhammad loved us. Muhammad Ali loved us. The great leaders, Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, all of them really had love for us in varying degrees. But the greatest love is when you can sacrifice your life for what you love. You are a people worthy to be loved in spite of our madness. God loved us and chose us to be the cornerstone of a new government. He don't want you integrated into this. He want to bring you out of this and make you the cornerstone of his kingdom. You, unfortunately, want to stay in this. because you have fallen in love with your persecutor and your 460-year-old enemy. And Reverend, if you're here, you know, you can tell them to love everybody, but God don't. And if God is the greatest of all and he don't love everybody, you think you can compete with him? See, our love of the enemy is a foolish love. But should we hate them? Well, the scripture says, no man can serve two masters. He's going to have to love one and do what? I didn't write it. I just believe it. I don't have no cracker as no master. From the richest of them that I have met, I never have bowed to them. If I was a whore, they could have bought me. But I'm too much in love. They ain't got enough money to buy me. And I'm not a rich man, but I'm rich enough. And even when I was broke, I was a man. And that's why the enemy can't stand it when we show love for one another. That drives him crazy. At the Million Man March, I don't know whether any of you were there 20 years ago. Brothers and sisters, I mean, think about that. I said to those that we taught, I said, don't bring no guns. Don't bring no weapon. Bring yourself. This was to be a spiritual journey. I wanted to see if we would forsake work on Monday, school on Monday, and pay a price to come to Washington. And we did it. And on that day, when you looked at that sea of black men, some young men hadn't seen their fathers in years, but they met them at the Million Man March. It's true, it's true. Now, Clinton was president, but he left town. He was down in Texas somewhere. Congress closed down. The Supreme Court closed down. City government closed down. And all it was 1.5 million to 2 million of us coming around, demonstrating love for one another. I caught a lot of flack for having the Million Man March from some of the sisters, you know. What kind of thing is this? Is a sexist thing, you know. Damn Muslims. They're against women. No, man. God made man first. If you don't have a man, you can't be the woman that God created you to be. Can't do it. And guess what? He can't be a man without you. That's why I always tell the Catholic fathers, hey, you know, God didn't tell you not to have a woman. You keep listening to the Pope, you know what I mean? And Get a woman, brothers. Even if you're a little gay now. You know, I know, listen, brothers, let me tell you something. I have gay people helping me. I have never disrespected them. And they ain't never tried no gay stuff with me. I'm just being 100. Now, truth. The enemy is doing something to feminize black men. You're a great man.
Yes, he is.
But the enemy wants to make you less than what God made you.
That's right.
Oh, come on, man. I was born this way. I don't think so. God don't make mistakes. See, there's something in the nature of a pig that a pig will have sex with the same male pig and a male pig. Yeah. That's in their nature. They can't help it. Well, you eat a lot of pig, then you know, they say man is what he eats. And Jesus said man is what he thinks. So the bad food that you eat, now you can't live on this McDonald's stuff. You got to take care of this. This body is the real house of the living God. This. It is sacred. This. So what you put in this, in food and drink, can either extend the life of this or diminish the life of this. Most of our people that are sick, the sickness and disease is really rooted in malnutrition. Have you heard that before?
Yes, sir.
If you haven't, I want you to think about it. Everything that God wanted us to have to sustain and maintain life, he already put it here. He never made a health food store. He just made the herbs and the bushes. And he taught man how to use what he created to heal any illness of this body. When my teacher's teacher, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, came to North America, the first thing he did was to go into people's homes that they would permit him in and look in their medicine cabinet. And he would take all the medicines out of the cabinet, throw it in the garbage pail, and point to the kitchen. See, that's your medicine cabinet. Well, what does that mean? If the kitchen is your medicine cabinet, who is your woman? See, sisters, you the doctor, baby. If you know the science